Good morning, guys. Welcome to my garden. I'm going to take you on a tour this morning and hopefully you enjoy. There's my dog, Zara. She's the only one of my dogs who can come back here because she's smart and doesn't step in the bed. She just stays on the paths. So there's one of my geese. Right here by the garden gate, I have a little rosemary plant planted. I got that from my sister-in-law, Tracy. There's my cat Fuzz. She's following me around. And this is my compost bin. The plastic bags are compostable green bags. And here's my chickens and turkeys. Actually, I have quite a few chickens, but they haven't come out of the coop yet this morning. It's too cold still. And this is a wisteria plant. Wisteria is actually a member of the pea family, and it's a woody perennial. It will actually climb. We'll be able to train it to climb up this, and then it gets really like long cascading purple flowers on it. They'll be really pretty. Wisteria is actually poisonous, but I don't think the chickens will eat it because they're pretty good at just naturally knowing the difference between what is edible and what's not. In this container, I have some gourds. There's 3 different kinds planted: speckled swan gourds, birdhouse gourds, and long-handled dipper gourds. So I'm not sure what germinated and what didn't. I planted quite a few seeds, but only 3 germinated. So they're starting to vine. You can see the little vine right there. And we'll be able to train those to grow up and along the chicken coop as well, and I think that will look really cool. I've also got some scarlet runner beans in here. That's what those 2 plants are. And scarlet runner beans are a pole bean that get a red flower. And a lot of people use them as ornamentals, but they're actually edible as well. Excuse me. These are moonflowers. They're a member of the morning glory family. And they bloom at night. That's why they're called moonflowers. I haven't decided where to plant those yet. I started them in my greenhouse, but then it got too hot in there. So I've had to move them out. And they look like they need to get planted. They're looking a little yellow. The sun's come up now, so hopefully this won't create too much of a problem for us. But these are my giant sunflowers. I plant them along the side of the chicken coop for shade for the chickens in the afternoons. They're about 5 feet tall right now, and they will get 10 to 12 feet tall. This variety is called Giant Gray Stripe. It's the same type that you would buy like roasted and salted in little packets in the grocery store. And last year off this many plants we got about 2 gallons of sunflower seeds. So we'll get a pretty good harvest off of those. Those 2 little ones are just decorative sunflowers. They're probably Autumn Beauty and Velvet Queen varieties, which are either purple or orange, like reddish orange. Here's my chicken tunnel. It goes down the edge of the garden all the way to the end. And the chickens in there eat a lot of bugs, and they actually eat a lot of weeds. They don't like those mustard weeds that are growing down there, but they do a really good job of keeping the weeds eaten besides those. All the way over there you can see my goats. I've got 8 little goats, and our neighbor lets them put them in his pasture over there to keep it grazed down. So they're fun. This is a carrot flower. I left this carrot in the ground over winter. Carrots are biennials, so that means they live for 2 years. So they flower in their 2nd year and then they die. They're not edible when they get to their 2nd year. The root turns kind of woody and weird. But the predatory insects like green lacewings, predatory wasps, ladybugs that are good for gardens really like carrot flowers and foliage, so I leave them there. That's an onion that also overwintered. It's gone to flower, so hopefully we can get some seeds off that. That's a green onion. It doesn't get bulbs. And back there in the back we've got some arugula. That's the tall thing with the white flowers. It's already bolted because arugula doesn't like the heat. It bolts really fast. And then some borage in front of that, the shorter leafy plants. Those are a good companion plant for tomatoes, and they get a purplish blue flower. And then I've got 3 tomato plants in this bed, all different varieties. I think one's, let's see, I'm not sure actually what varieties are in this bed. I forgot to label them. I know one's a cherry tomato, probably a black cherry tomato, and yeah, I'm not sure what the others are without looking in my gardening book. This flower down here is an anemone flower. It's kind of past its prime, but it's still pretty. I don't know if it likes the spot in the garden because anemones really like alkaline soil, and tomatoes like acidic soil, and they are acidic themselves. So there's probably a little bit of a clash there. They aren't the best companions, but it's doing okay there for now, so I'll just leave it. These are my California poppies. They're closed right now because the sun hasn't hit them yet, but you can see they're so cute when they're closed. They're like rolled up in like a perfect little bud. But they open when the sun hits. I really like this flower. It's got some medicinal uses, and it's really pretty to look at. On both sides of the bed here, I've got a little basil plant. I love basil, and it's also a good companion for tomatoes. It brings out the flavor. More arugula in the back of the bed. I plant arugula in the backs of all my beds. And then I've got some different broccoli plants. I think those ones back there are Decicio, and this one's Romanesco. That's the one that gets like the fractal spirals in the head when it forms the flower bud, which that's what broccoli is, for those of you that don't know. It's actually the flower of the plant before it opens. There's my cabbages. One of them's already starting to try to form a head, which that's exciting because it's been hot. And when it's hot, cabbages don't form heads correctly. But these got planted out early enough that they haven't had any issues. So down here I've got some different things. I've got white clover that I got from my mom, some forget-me-nots, some little tiny purple basil, some more forget-me-nots, some coreopsis, that's the bright yellow, some bead ants, that's the red and yellow, and a delphinium that's past its prime but is getting some seed pods. So you can see the seed pods. That's what those green things are. So when those dry, we'll be able to harvest seeds off that. In these containers, I've got some watermelon, some calendula. Calendula is a really useful herb in the garden. It's a good companion plant for a lot of things, and it's also got a lot of medicinal qualities. And watermelon, everybody knows what that is. That's a sugar baby. It's a tiny little icebox variety. So in here I've got some mums, some scarlet runner beans, some baby's breath, and some more forget-me-nots, which those are just flowers. They'll be pretty as soon as they get a little bigger. The scarlet runner bean, something's been eating. I'll have to try and figure out what's damaging that and get rid of it. I don't use any pesticides or herbicides in my garden, so all of the insect removal and weeding has to be done by hand, which is kind of a pain, but I'd rather go through that than use the chemical sprays. This is a volunteer dill. I have these all over my garden. There's another one. I had one dill plant back here last year, and it went to seed and dropped all these seeds. So there's arugula in the back of the bed, and some more borage. and some more tomatoes. They're all different kinds. I've got 7 different varieties planted this year. And more basil. And another little rosemary. And lots of volunteer dill. And there's a little lupin. These guys are just tiny. I don't know if they'll do much this year or not. Lupin's actually a member of the pea family, which I didn't know, and that family fixes nitrogen from the air into the soil, so they don't need like a lot of nitrogen, and I accidentally gave them some nitrogen burn by over fertilizing them with chicken manure, so that's why they look so sad, I think. We've got some more coreopsis and some scabiosa. That's the purple. They excuse me, call it a pincushion flower, because if you look at it up close, it looks like a sewing pincushion. The little stamens in the flower. Which, that's fun. It's just for decoration. And pollinators really like it. So then in this bed, we've got some Swiss chard. It's 5-color silver beet Swiss chard, which can be white, red, pink, orange, or yellow. And I don't see any orange in this bed. It looks like we've just got white, yellow, pink, and red. So it gets a colorful stem, and it's really pretty. And it's also really good to eat. You can cook it like spinach, or eat it raw like in salads. There's a Johnny Jump Up I got from my neighbor. And a Shasta daisy. And this is my strawberry patch. It's not very big. It's maybe 4 foot by 6 feet. But we get quite a bit of strawberries. For those of you that follow my YouTube feed at all, or I'm sorry, my Facebook feed, this is the patch that I picked all the strawberries out of the other day. This is my fake snake. For those of you that might have been concerned about that, it's just a wooden snake. I use it to scare the birds away, and it works really well. They think it looks pretty realistic. And sometimes it even scares me because I forget it's there, and I'm like, there's a snake. But then I'm like, oh yeah, it's just that fake one. There's some more Johnny Jump Ups. I actually have some little asparagus down here that I grew from seed. They're tiny, but next year they'll be big. But you can't harvest asparagus until it's 3 years old. So it'll be a while before we can enjoy that. Looks like we've got quite a few ripe strawberries to pick. There's a big bunch. So I'll have to get out here and pick those, but strawberries are kind of like tomatoes. There's nothing like a fresh vine-ripened strawberry. You just can't compare them. That's an apple tree. My daughter Janelle planted that from a seed. She ate an apple and she was like, Mom, can I plant this seed? And I was like, sure. And I thought it probably wouldn't even germinate, because usually they don't, but it did, and surprisingly we've got a little tree. We'll see if it's good for producing fruit or not. It probably won't be, but you never know. And I've got some flowers down here. This is Catchfly, and another Scabiosa, and another small Shasta daisy. And I've actually got a tiny little rhubarb plant back in there too, right there. It was planted too deep, and I had to dig it up and plant it a little more shallowly so that it could get some growth, but it's finally starting to do better. So we're almost to the 15-minute mark, so I'm going to cut this into another part, and I will see you guys again in part 2.